The first news of General Richard Montgomery's death leading the assault on Quebec City was a letter from 1st New York Lieutenant Colonel Rudolphus Ritzema that passed through Ticonderoga on its way to Albany January 13th, 1776. There, General Philip Schuyler immediately sent news to General Washington at Cambridge. From his hospital bed the next day, Colonel Benedict Arnold also wrote to Washington of the failed assault, the death of General Montgomery, and his own serious wounds. Arnold described the initial panic within the American forces at the gates of Quebec and his determination to blockade the city until more soldiers and artillery reached him. General Schuyler and others initially tried to keep this news secret, as it would discourage recruiting and re-enlisting among soldiers still engaged in the service. Efforts to conceal news of Montgomery's death at Quebec succeeded only briefly. Serving with Massachusetts troops in the siege of Boston, Surgeon James Thatcher wrote,
"The newspapers announced the most painful intelligence from our army in Canada."
On January 25th, 1776. Indeed, the death of Montgomery was devastating. Colonel Ritzema proclaimed,
"Weep, America, for thou hast lost one of thy most virtuous and bravest sons."
Upon receiving the news, General Washington expressed to Schuyler,
"I am heartily sorry and most sincerely condole with you upon the unhappy fall of the brave and worthy Montgomery, and those gallant officers and men who have experienced a like fate."
He quickly pivoted to the recruiting already underway for a new army in Canada. And the colonies of Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Hampshire, they were raising regiments for 1 year's service in the North. The next day, Colonel Elijah Porter received his commission to raise his regiment in western Massachusetts. Connecticut appointed Colonel Charles Burrell, who leaned heavily on 1775 Northern Department veteran officers and men from Colonel Benjamin Hinman's old regiment. New Hampshire selected Colonel Timothy Beadle, who had to leave Canada to recruit this new regiment back home. Colonel Seth Warner of the New Hampshire Grants was also to re-raise soldiers quickly for service back in Canada. Ironically, even before General Montgomery died at Quebec, false rumors circulated about his demise. Yet true reports of the dire need for soldiers, clothing, and arms also reached the Continental Congress. Letters from General Schuyler and the report of a Congressional committee pointed out the dire situation of the Northern Department by the end of November 1775. The Congress responded on January 8, 1776, ordering those additional Continental regiments from New England. This was a full 9 days before word of General Montgomery's death reached the Congress. The Congress appointed Goose Van Scoik, colonel of a new regiment of New Yorkers, which he was to begin recruiting immediately. Under him, Captain Joseph McCracken, a veteran of Scoik's old 2nd New York Regiment, managed to enlist 24 recruits in Albany, marching them to relieve the garrison of Fort Ticonderoga by the beginning of February 1776. They would guard this vital stop along the march of new regiments into Canada. Beyond these familiar faces in the Northern Department, the process of raising an entirely new group of soldiers was also underway. On January 8, 1776, the Continental Congress also ordered the 2nd New Jersey Regiment and the 1st Pennsylvania Battalion to march to Canada as soon as possible. 3 months earlier, on October 8, 1775, back when the Siege of St. John began its 2nd month, the Continental Congress called upon the colony of New Jersey to raise 2 regiments for Continental Army service. The same overture prompted the Pennsylvania Assembly to vote to raise a battalion for Continental Army service as well. The 2nd New Jersey Regiment in the old British barracks at Trenton and the 1st Pennsylvania Battalion in the British barracks of Philadelphia rushed to clothe and equip their 8 individual companies of soldiers and get them marching northward. With the experience of soldiers serving in the Canadian winter, on January 10th, the Congress ordered 688 Canadian caps, mittens, stockings, and leggings specific to the northern climate, along with shirts, blankets, camp equipment, and vehicles for each of these regiments. Many of these soldiers were to receive moccasins, the local footwear of Canada, and better adapted to service in the snow. Individual companies from these two regiments made a harrowing series of marches to New York City, then up along the frozen Hudson River, down Lake Champlain to Ticonderoga, and onward into Canada. Remarkably, soldiers of the 1st Pennsylvania Battalion began to reach the siege of Quebec by March 8th. The 2nd New Jersey Regiment by the 25th, both providing desperately needed reinforcements to this siege. Simply by their presence, these soldiers from outside of New England and New York forced Americans to confront colonists of dramatically different cultures, governments, and military systems. Their interaction, both in cooperation and conflict, played out dramatically in the summer and fall of 1776, as the first broadly Continental Army took up the fight for independence here at Ticonderoga.